You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
How's it going? We got a lot coming up for you on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast. I probably just yelled really loud in your ears to start the show. Sorry to all of you, and especially to Sam Dykstra, who has to deal with that every week. Hi, Sam.
You should apologize every week. That's how we should have started out every week.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Expectations nice and low. Thank you so much for joining us. We are terribly sorry.
Terribly sorry to interrupt your day. No, we welcome you in and say hello. This week's episode of the Show Before the Show, the official podcast of minor league baseball. I am Tyler Mon. He is Sam Dykstra. We do have a lot coming up for you on the show today. Garrett Mitchell, the top draft selection and now top prospect in the Milwaukee Brewers organization, joins the show coming up here in a little bit. Sam sent Garrett a message, and as Sam and I logged on to start recording today, immediately got a message back that was like, yeah, I'm available right now. So we hopped on, had a great conversation with Garrett. You'll hear from him in a little bit. You'll hear from Benjamin Hill coming up after that. You'll hear from Josh Jackson a little while later. A ton of stuff going on in this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. And first things first, tropical storm passed through your area yesterday. All good?
All good here. Yeah.
Good.
We did get some wind. We did get some rain. I did move my car, what felt like just in time. I was like looking out my window. I was like, I feel like I should move the car. It's under a tree.
Yeah.
And just when I looked outside, a branch came and like landed on the trunk.
Oh man.
Of my Toyota Corolla. Not anything damage worthy or anything, but I was just like, yeah, that's a pretty good sign. So I went and moved the car, was not under any trees. It survived. Everything is fine.
It's good.
My neighborhood and all that, some down trees in Prospect Park near where I live, but all in all, pretty good. I am thinking of everybody who's without power right now. I mean, there's like my family in Connecticut doesn't have power at the moment, so I'm sure my nephew and niece are bouncing off the wall trying to figure out what to do without TV. But everything is fine in this neck of the woods for having a tropical storm roll through.
Well, good. And we hope all of you, wherever you are safe and healthy and doing all the right things and wearing your masks and keeping your social distance and all of that, as we're a few weeks into the major league season now, as crazy as that is. And we've got some guys to talk about who are on the way and arriving now at the major league level. And that's where we're going to start with a couple of top 100 prospects in baseball who were summoned to the big leagues to make their debuts this week. Joe Adell with the Angels and Luis Patino with the Padres. Adell obviously coming into this season as a guy who everybody was just waiting and knowing it was a matter of time, when and not if Joe Adell would be at the major league level. Luis Patino has made such a rapid climb in recent years. He's the 29th ranked overall prospect in baseball, according to MLB Pipeline's newest rankings. Joe Adell, number 6. But those two guys arriving, more excitement for Padres fans who have grown so accustomed to prospect excitement in recent seasons. And Joe Adell, he's a big piece to arrive with the Angels this year.
Yeah, Joe Adell, like you said, it always felt like a matter of time before they were going to bring him up. I actually thought it might be delayed even further because Brian Goodwin actually got off to a really good start for the Angels. And, Mike Trout was on paternity leave for a while. He came back, so I thought, okay, they're going to have a pretty full outfield, also with veteran and expensive veteran at that, Justin Upton. It seemed like all 3 outfield spots seemed to be spoken for. But Joe Adell, he's too good of a talent to leave at the alternate site at Long Beach State. They brought him up this week. That might mean a reduced playing time for Justin Upton, probably going to mean the same for Brian Goodwin. But right now, having Mike Trout and Joe Adell in the outfield is super, super special. Adell, since he was taken in the 2017 draft, he was 10th overall. I think he was on this podcast that week. I think I got him right before the draft, which was pretty good in hindsight. So if you want to go back and listen to that episode, you're more than welcome to. Compare where he was coming out of the Louisville area to where he is now as one of the game's best prospects. But the thing that stands out is his power. It has the chance to be plus. He's also a plus runner. The only question mark with him is the hit tool, and even that's been pretty good pretty much everywhere he's gone so far. The arm, the fielding tools, all plus. He can do pretty much everything on the baseball field well. He moved up pretty quickly last year. He suffered some pretty serious leg injuries all at the same time in spring training. That held him back until about May. But then he moved from Class A Advanced Inland Empire to AA Mobile to AAA Salt Lake, played a little bit in the AFL. Then, Tyler, I know you saw him on Team USA last year in the Premier 12 tournament. What stood out to you there when you got to see him play basically every day?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, you could tell that every tool was there. And it's interesting, actually, among that group that was on the U.S. roster, Jake Cronenworth is up with the San Diego Padres. He was a member of that roster, obviously was traded over the offseason from Tampa Bay to San Diego. Cody Ponce got his call this week, the Brewers pitching prospect, and now Joe Adell going up. I think there's another one that I missed as well. A couple of guys from the Mexico team have been promoted. But yeah, Joe Adell, I mean, and you could tell the one thing that was really interesting about Joe Adell was, especially after that tournament moved, the U.S. played the opening round in Mexico. When that tournament moved to Tokyo, you could tell how many fans of the crowds in Japan knew about Joe Adell before he even got there. The U.S.-Japan game, you could tell when Joe Adell came to the plate, people knew, oh, that's the guy who's going to be in the outfield with Mike Trout soon, and that was really cool. But he put a lot on display, was very much kind of the well-rounded guy that you expected him to be.
Yeah, so that was a definite cool call-up. That was made official. He officially debuted on Tuesday with the Angels. Luis Patino is the other name you mentioned there, Tyler, number 29 overall prospect right now. Padres call him up. He actually beats Mackenzie Gore to San Diego. I think that's pretty telling, at least where they both are. The reports coming out of the alternate site at the University of San Diego for Patino were spectacular. He's going to be moving into a bullpen role, at least initially, with the Padres, but Jace Tingler, the manager for San Diego, said he has every possibility of moving into the rotation as the season goes on. The Padres have done very well coming out of the gate here in the NL West. It looks like they're definitely going to be competing for a playoff spot, but they may even be competing for the division the way they have started out and the Dodgers have started out. And yes, Tyler, your Colorado Rockies have began the 2020
Indeed.
season. But adding Patino to the bullpen is going to be really special. We got a brief look at this last year at the All-Star Futures game in Cleveland, where Patino closed out the game for the National League. He was basically slated to come in for 2/3 of an inning, but the game went into extra innings, so he ended up pitching an inning and 2/3, which was the longest of any pitcher in that game. Retired all 5 batters he faced. I think he got 3 strikeouts. He struck out Ronaldo Hernandez, Royce Lewis, and the aforementioned Joe Adell, which is pretty good. He hit 99 on the gun, which is not something he will typically do as a starter. So the fact that he could do that in a shorter stint on a big league field in a big spot like that was really special. He was my pick for MVP. We didn't get to vote on it. It ended up going to Rangers catcher Sam Huff, but because Sam Huff homered in that game. But I think Patino showed a lot of talent in a very short stint. He's going to bring that to San Diego right away. He could be an elite bullpen arm pretty quickly. He's got the plus slider. He's got a decent curveball and changeup, but he throws all of them for strikes, and that's going to certainly help him there working out of that bullpen. I bet he starts making starts by September. He's just too good to limit his role like that. But the fact that the Padres are going for it is very exciting, and bringing him up this quick is a special opportunity for him. Just being 20 years old that he is, he'll turn 21 in October. So he'll be 20 for all of this season. It's really cool to see him in that spot. And I think we can expect big things just because the stuff is that good.
There are a lot of guys who have already made an impact from the prospect side of the major league level and are on their way to doing so in 2020 with this weird and bizarro World 60-game season. But, man, we're already a sixth of the way, rather, through the season, through 10 games for a lot of teams. And it's kind of crazy. It's been a very weird and crazy year across all levels of baseball, but one especially, guys who were drafted in 2020. And for the second time since the Major League Baseball first-year player draft, we're going to hear from one of those first-round selections. We, of course, caught up with Spencer Torkelson recently, the first overall selection of the Detroit Tigers in the 2020 Major League first-year player draft. And today, we will hear from Garrett Mitchell, the first-round selection of the Milwaukee Brewers. The outfielder out of UCLA joins the show next.
As an official partner of Minor League Baseball, Nationwide's here to make sure you're protected for every pitch life throws at you. Visit nationwide.com today to see how we can help meet your needs. Nationwide is on your side.
We are headed back to the 2020 Major League First-Year Player Draft on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. And the new top prospect in the Milwaukee Brewers organization in baseball is number 69 overall, Garrett Mitchell, the outfielder drafted out of UCLA with the 20th overall pick in the June draft. Garrett, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. It's obviously a very strange year for everybody in the baseball world, but I feel like especially for draft guys this year, and you obviously very well fit into that conversation. We were talking to you just before we started recording. You are in Arizona right now, able to get some work into the Brewers complex, but this season you start the year at UCLA, get a couple weeks into the season, the whole world goes to hell in a handbasket. The season gets paused, gets canceled. Then you're thrown into this draft mix. You get picked in the first round. What have the last 6 months been like for you? Because this has been a weird year for everybody, and I can't imagine how much weirder it's been if you were a draft person this year.
Yeah, no, it's been a little bit crazy, a little bit hectic, but, you just kind of got to roll with the punches sometimes. And, obviously it wasn't what anyone else planned, but, everything that's happened up to this point, has happened for a reason. And the most important thing is everyone just has to stay safe. I cannot thank the Brewers organization any more than I have about just, trusting and believing in me and my abilities. And I'm just excited to be in such a great and amazing organization. And to UCLA, I'm going to miss the times I had there. And I really wish that we had this year to go out there and, try to fix what happened last year, losing the Super Regionals and trying to go win a World Series. But, I wish, Coach Savage and the Bruins good luck in the future. And I'm excited for the next chapter.
Let's talk a little bit about the college season this year, because you get starts in all 15 of the Bruins games. You're off to a fantastic start, 355, 425, 484. I think you only had 2 hitless games. And then all of a sudden you get shut down. We talked with Spencer Torkelson a couple weeks ago, and he said, at the beginning, and I think it's so weird thinking back on March, but I think we were all kind of in this mindset to a certain degree. At the beginning, the Arizona State guys kind of thought like, okay, maybe this will be a few weeks and we'll be able to get back at it. And then obviously the large full scope of everything comes into focus. What was it like for you guys when you found out about the season being put on pause, and then as it progressed over the next few weeks at UCLA?
Well, when it first kind of came out that, like the NBA season was shutting down for a time, and, Major League Baseball was doing the same thing, and, all this stuff was kind of happening. We were kind of getting the idea that, this is probably what's going to happen to us, that we're probably next. And so we had a conversation with Coach Savage as a team. The conversation was basically just to stay ready, stay focused. We might be shut down for a couple of weeks, but we need to be ready to go. But all in that, in the same day, there was a bunch of stuff coming out about, call it all college sports, like spring seasons are being canceled. There's going to be no championships. So at that point, you kind of got the idea that, the season was going to get shut down. And, me and Spencer are buddies, so me and him were talking throughout this whole entire process. And with that being said, and us being 2 competitors, we obviously wanted to get the chance to play against each other this year. So, that kind of sucked for us. So,
what was it like? You're off to such a good start, and for you, it was the process of coming back from injury too, with Team USA and the collegiate national team the year before. You get shut down with a leg injury, and then coming back, you're off to such a good start, and then all of a sudden this all hits. Is it a moment of kind of more frustration? And obviously, with such big things coming just a few months later being drafted, you can kind of move past it. But how much did it hurt, the fact that you're off to such a good start? You guys are, trying to, like you said, come back from 2019 and the way things finished, and then all of a sudden it's all gone. I mean, what were the personal emotions for you there?
I mean, I can't even tell you. The whole situation was tough. Just like I said, the biggest thing, more than just about me, just about, the whole team and the whole program is, we left the end of my sophomore year, which was the 2019 season, just not, satisfied with what happened. And that was really disappointing. So for me, more than just, having to miss out with the USA team and, not play much in the fall, it was more of a redemption season for us, knowing that, we had a really good year, but, there was still more to prove. And especially when you lose like 7 of your 9 guys in the starting lineup, it's tough and it's not easy. So this year, when we came out to such a hot start and we were playing well, and coming off some pretty big wins against like Oklahoma State or Texas A&M or Vanderbilt, it shows that this team was a little bit different, had a little bit more edge and, was ready to go out against the big dogs every single day. And to lose that only 15 games in was just really disappointing and sad. But I don't even know what to say because even when you still think about it, it just sucks. It really does.
Yeah.
And coming off that, the fact that you only had those many games, and then like Tyler said, you have to turn that around, and there's a draft coming up in June. And once we found out there was no spring schedule and all that, but what were your expectations going into the draft? MLB.com had you at number 6 overall. Baseball America had you at number 6 overall. There were some pretty big expectations about where you could go in the first round. You go to Milwaukee, as we've said, 20th overall. But what were your expectations going into the day?
I mean, I had an idea of kind of what was going on, and I had conversations with my agents and with teams, and for me, the biggest thing was it doesn't really matter if it's pick number 1 or if it's the last pick in the 5 rounds. It was more of just, I'm going to be prepared to play for whatever team, trusts and believes in my abilities. And, with diabetes being one of those things that people like to throw question marks next to, it's something that I can't control, Like that's something that I've had for, 12 years, and I take really good care of myself and, make sure I'm prepared every single day to play. But that's not really my concern, or I shouldn't even have to worry about those types of things. So for me, when I went into going in that day, I was just blessed and happy with the opportunity to be picked on night 1. And that's what I try to stay focused on, because, if you try to think too much about, being, okay, you're the number 6 overall prospect, you're projected to go top 10, and, you're just sitting there thinking that way, you're only going to put yourself in a situation where you're just going to feel disappointed, because, that's not how this works. It's just, this is like step 1 to, the next chapter of your life. I call it step 1 just in the fact that, like, going from, thinking about from little league to travel ball, from travel ball to high school to college to pro ball, there's a bunch of step 1s. It's basically like restarting when you go to another level. And so for me, this is just step 1. So this is me getting my foot in the door, having the opportunity to play for a great organization that trusts and believes in me. And now the hard work continues to keep going. And, I'm going to work my butt off, and I'm going to try to get to the major leagues as fast as I can to help the Brewers win a World Series. And that's what I try to stay focused on.
And you mentioned the diabetes in there. Having type 1 diabetes is something that comes up on a lot of the scouting reports with you, is that everybody knows you're incredibly fast, 70 grade to 80 grade speed. You're a good hitter. You can show some power, especially in BP, and we're hopeful that we can see that more in games as you get more experience at the pro level. But all the tools were there. It seems like the biggest question marks were about type 1 diabetes. How did you try to show teams that, yes, this is something you're dealing with, but you've overcome it pretty much at every stop in your life, and you can continue to do that once you hit the pros?
I mean, it's just going out there and playing baseball. You know what I mean? I can't really sit there and convince someone, I take care of myself. It's not how that's especially with diabetes. I mean, it's more of a people who don't know me or don't really know about the disease. It's, if you don't know about it, then I can't really change your mind if you don't really understand what is going on in the first place. So for me, it's just about playing, because first and foremost, what people's jobs are as being scouts is to scout baseball players. It's not about, his health or his grades. That all comes into play when it comes to like going through the draft. But first and foremost, can this kid play baseball? So I just focused on, okay, I'm going to go out there and just play baseball. I'll let the rest take care of itself. Whatever happens, happens. But the one thing I can say is that there will be no question whether or not, I can pick up a bat and swing the bat or throw a baseball or run. So at the end of the day, when those things are being asked, it's more of just trying to focus on the things that you can control. And that's having positivity, working your butt off, and going out there every single day and competing and trying to win.
And showing all that, obviously, you attracted the interest of a lot of teams. Being a first-round pick, every team's going to try to scout you and see where you can fall. But it seems like the Brewers were especially surprised to see you fall to them, and they seemed all too happy to take you. What conversations did you have with Brewer scouts? How much did you know about them and their interests going into the draft, either through your conversations or ones with your agents?
I've been close with the Brewers organization ever since high school, just by, playing on their scout team, doing area codes. So our relationship has been, good for a long time, and they've known about my diabetes, obviously, since, being around them, for many years before even college. So to them, there was not really a concern whether I could play with diabetes or anything like that. So, our conversations were very short and brief. More of the conversations were, in the fall, it was like a 10-minute meeting, just kind of catching up, seeing how everything's going, and then boom, you're gone. And then from there was really no other conversations, because it was more of like, okay, let's see what happens. Will he make it to us? Will he not? That type of conversation. So, for me, I couldn't be more grateful, like I said, to be with the Brewers. And like I said, it's an organization that does know me and then also knows about my background. So with that, it gives me confidence. I just have to go out there and play. It's not about me trying to, prove myself to anyone. It's just go out and play. Do what you do best. And it takes a lot of pressure off my shoulders just to go out there and have fun.
Garrett, what is the conversation after the draft process starts? I mean, I know even listening, draft night or the second night of the draft, listening to player development execs or GMs or whoever, there was a lot of, we want to get these guys work. We're not really sure how we're going to be able to do that yet. When the Brewers select you, we're 6 weeks removed from that now. How have they communicated with you about, obviously now you're in Arizona and you get a chance to get some of that work started, but how did that communication process evolve of like, okay, we're not going to have a minor league season. We can't necessarily send you to do X, Y, and Z, but we want you to come to Arizona. Like, what was that whole track like?
I mean, the biggest thing is it was kind of just a day-by-day, conversation. More of like, there was not really a plan. It was more of congratulations. We're so happy to have you in this organization, and we're just going to see and wait on what happens over the next couple of days and weeks, and see what we can do. And from there, for me, I've been training, hitting, doing everything since the season ended. So for me, I've been prepared to kind of do whatever I was going to be asked to do. So, being able to come out in Arizona, get myself acclimated, get to, meet some people, have some conversations, get some work in, being able to get something out of a situation when there's not a lot going on. It's just kind of the way it kind of just happened. So for me, being out here is great, because this is a lot better than sitting at home like a lot of people have to do. So I just want to play ball just like everyone else does.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. I mean, at this stage, had this been a normal year, you would right now basically be in starting month 7 pretty much of playing baseball consecutively for 9 or 10 months. I mean, depending on how your debut season goes in pro ball, and if you get sent to winter ball or to the fall league or something like that after this, how much do you miss just day to day going to a ballpark and putting your uniform on and getting swings in or taking fly balls or whatever it is, and especially games? I mean, how much are you missing that right now?
I mean, I'm missing it a lot. And, the biggest thing in baseball is when you're playing every single day, you're able to have, consistency, whether it be at the plate or at the field, or just having a consistent schedule. So for me, my schedule's been a little bit different. I wouldn't say it's necessarily off. It's just different, not having to get up every single day and get to the field. So, I'm just trying to keep it like it's like a baseball season. Like I'm having to get up at a certain time and train and go to the field and play catch or hit or do something. And that's the biggest thing. So with that being the case, not being able to be at the field every single day really does suck. Just this whole year of 2020 has just been terrible, because you lose out on what could have been your best college baseball season as a team, and, starting your professional career, trying to work your way up to, the show. So obviously it's disappointing, but you just have to, look at things from a positive perspective and just it's more important that people stay safe and, not get sick. So, and even for me too, with my immune system being a diabetic, I have to be safe. So, getting COVID is not really in the cards for me. You got to stay safe and stay inside. So.
And now that you are at the facility, you're going to be making a lot of introductions to yourself to new people. Obviously, you have a reputation that kind of precedes yourself being the first round pick. A lot of people generally know who you are, but as they get to know you more within the Milwaukee organization, how do you kind of introduce yourself? What do you tell the new coaches, the new coordinators you'll be working with about your skill set, and what are you hoping to do to take that to the next level?
For me, it's kind of just the same thing as it's always been. It's more of just letting, the coaches or the people in the organization get to know me as a person and kind of just see who I am and, my beliefs and, how my mind works when I'm on a field. So, in this time, this is a good time for me to get to know the organization gets to know me. So for me, the biggest thing I'd always tell, those who are just getting to know me is, I want to win. I'll do whatever it takes to win. So whatever I have to do that, I will do. So that's kind of been what it's been like since being, acclimated a little bit, just really just prepared to do whatever it takes. And that's kind of just how it's been. So for me, I am just excited to be outside the house. I could tell you that a million more times. I just am happy to be out of my room, just watching TV, doing whatever, being outside to actually play catch, go hit in a cage, work off a machine, have conversations with other players and coaches. It's great.
And when you are doing that work, especially hitting off the machine and in those batting practice sessions, what is the focus for you? What do you think you need to do to prove yourself, to prove to yourself and prove to others and prove to the Milwaukee organization that you can take what you did at UCLA, which is in a collegiate atmosphere, a good conference, obviously, but metal bats and all that, and carry that to the pro ranks and carry that to every stop all the way up to the majors?
I try to challenge myself. Some of the best advice I've gotten is, you train and practice at a harder level, or you make it harder on yourself, to fail. So when you get in the game, it gets easier. So when I say that, I mean, if you're going to hit off the machine, you're not going in there to, throw a cookie cutter fastball right down the middle. Like you're going to, bump up the speed a little bit quicker than you're used to, make it throw, more challenging pitches and just really challenge yourself. I mean, that's how you get better, by challenging yourself and failing. So for me, during this time, it's not about, taking it easy. It's not about really, just trying to get your feet wet. It's go time. So whatever opportunity you get to put in the work and, show people that you can work through failure and through challenges. I would call it the American dream as a baseball player. That's what you want to do. Like, that's how you get better. I mean, you don't just start from the bottom and just, you're 100% successful all the time. And then you just, boom, you're in the major leagues. That's not how that works. That's why it's long seasons, 162 games a year. For minor leaguers, maybe like more like 140. But, there's going to be those days of ups and downs, and you got to work through that. You got to work through the growing pains, and that's how you become an everyday guy. So it's kind of just the mindset of, going there, challenging yourself, working through failure, and, doing whatever it takes.
And just to circle back on this, because you talked about it before, and you talked about it right there in terms of putting in the work and putting yourself in the best position. Playing with type 1 diabetes, like you said, you put in the work to make sure that you're healthy enough and in a good position every time you take the field, for that to not affect you. But for people at home who don't know what that work is, kind of explain that to us. What are some of the things you need to do to make sure that you are at your best every day to take the field and are, you've put in that work to be as good a prospect as you are now? Yeah,
I think the biggest thing when it comes to making sure you're prepared every single day when you go out of the field is just, being consistent with, eating right, staying hydrated, making sure your body's fueled to play every single day. Because obviously when you're playing every single day, and this goes for, if you're diabetic or you have no disease and, you're just a normal person, I would call it, but just your body gets depleted, and you need to make sure that your body is getting, the correct type of nutrients to, feel good. And for me, that preparation's come at a young age. I learned how to do that when I was, 8 or 9 years old. And for me, I feel of it as more of an advantage because I know, what my body needs to feel right every single day and be ready to go. And that's really important is, getting a lot of water and you staying hydrated. But with that, having electrolytes between, like I would use like a Smart Water or electrolyte packets or, having some type of like Gatorade or Powerade. And then having the correct, protein meal with carbs because you need both, especially with blood sugars being the fact that if you can't keep your blood sugar stable, you're not going to feel good. So it sounds like a lot of science when you talk about it, but, in my own mind when I'm explaining it, I mean, it's really more of like I can just, go to the fridge and grab a sandwich and grab something to drink and be good. It sounds like a lot, but it's really it's everyday life feels real simple for me now. So I sometimes forget I'm a diabetic, like when I have, my diabetes bag in my hand or, I have it on me and people will be like, wait, are you a diabetic? I'm like, yeah. They're like, honestly, I didn't even know that. I've been your friend for 5 years. I'm like, oops. So I've gotten that a couple of times in my lifetime where it's like, maybe not my best friend or just someone I've been around in my life and, just who are around me like a good amount of time and they don't even notice because it's not like something I flaunt. It's just something I do, on the side when I, had to prick my finger to test my blood sugar or, have some type of like juice or some type of sugary substance because my blood sugar is low or give myself a shot for food when I'm high. So, there's a lot of things, that go into it, but, I don't try to, make it known to everyone because the thing is it's not really like something I want people to know. Like, I don't want people to think of me as like, oh, like you're a diabetic. I just want people to think of me as like, yeah, you're Garrett. You're just as normal as anyone else is. So.
Garrett, a couple more for you. We'll get you out of here. You come from two very impressive baseball factories in your high school, Orange Lutheran, which, of course, produced Garrett Cole. A lot of people will probably be aware of, in UCLA as well. And it has become very fashionable around college sports these days to dunk on the Pac-12 because of its struggles in football and basketball. But in baseball, 3 first-round picks out of the Pac-12 this year. 3 of the last 8 first overall selections have come out of the Pac-12. Obviously, Mark Appel is no longer in baseball, but Spencer Torkelson this year, your friend, Adley Rutschman last year from Oregon State. When you talk to people from, you're going to, let's just put a name on it. You're going to run into those SEC people in pro ball quite a bit. When people talk about the Pac-12, for you having been with a great program going in the first round, what is it about Pac-12 ball that you say to the people outside of the Pac-12 who don't consider it what it was at one time?
I mean, the thing is, if we're being realistic, it just kind of the conferences can be different in some aspects. So if you think of an SEC team, they're more of the powerhouse, like the big boys, the guys that hit a lot of home runs and drive a lot of runs and have their pitchers that just throw mid to high 90s, some at triple digits. The Pac-12 is just I think an all around nothing stands out more than just, have a really solid overall team from top to bottom. And I think it just really depends on who you talk to. But, obviously, some SEC teams, like there's the tops within like Vanderbilt and, A&M and Arkansas and, teams like that are at the top of the SEC that you really know. And same thing in the Pac-12 when you think of like ASU, Oregon State, UCLA, et cetera. But then there's, the teams on the bottom that, don't do as well. I don't really need to name schools or anything. But, that's part of every conference. There's, 2, 3, 4 programs in each conference that are, that are good. And I think it's just more of a preference on, what type of player you are and, what you like to do. So for me, my game has never really been, the long ball. Not saying I can't hit it, not saying I can't do it. But my thing was never like, I'm trying to go to an SEC school, to try to hit a bunch of home runs. My game is speed, small ball, good defense, and UCLA was, the perfect fit for me. And they helped me develop into the player that, I wanted to be and, people thought I could be. So I think it's more of a preference on, what it is a player wants and needs from, a university. So when you ask that question, I mean, I think it's just more personal preference. If you look at the numbers, how many, Pac-12 teams have been in the World Series or won the World Series over the past 8 to 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like the numbers speak for themselves. It's not like, you have to go out there and convince someone like, is the Pac-12, good enough to line up against anyone else? I mean, it's proven. So, that's a whole nother thing. But, I'd say Pac-12 is up there just like, any other big power conferences like the SEC.
And talking about homers and stuff, Brewers fans, just for reference, Garrett's like 566 last year with 32 extra base hits of his 90 hits. So all of that pop is there. Don't let him fool you. It's all there. Garrett, last thing for you, and this is just a nerdy question that only I would ask, but looking at pictures of your last couple of baseball years, UCLA, one of the best looking, best outfitted programs, not just in baseball, but in all of its sports, uniform wise. You are a stirrup program. I think you guys all rock stirrups, and your stirrup game is phenomenal in your UCLA photos. But I noticed your USA baseball photos, you go pant legs down. So now as a pro ball player, when you step onto a field next year, and obviously climbing toward Milwaukee, they've got brand new uniforms that look gorgeous this year. Are you going to be a stirrup guy? Are you going to be a high sock, high pant leg guy? Or are you going with the low pant legs? What's the pro ball look going to be for you?
I think it's going to be a little bit of a mix of both. I mean, realistically, I didn't really have the choice at UCLA to choose what I wanted to do, which was fine because, like I said, the one thing I can tell you about, playing at UCLA is, it comes with being a professional, right? You think of like the Yankees being clean shaved, having a certain look. So, what their organization's supposed to look like. That's how Coach Savage runs UCLA baseball. And I think it's great when you have a coach that wants the same for all your players, that, no one looks different than someone else. And I think it looks real professional, it looks really good, and it stands out. I think that's the reason why, is because there's not one person, that stands out over another. It all looks the same from top to bottom, and it's great. So for me, I think it's going to be a mix. It's going to be me trying to figure out, what kind of looks good and what feels good. Because I'm a big person on, if you look good, you'll play good and you'll feel good. So some days it might be pants down. Sometimes it might be pants up with stirrups. You never know. Maybe some dirty mids some games. You never know.
I love it. Garrett Mitchell, the 20th overall selection in the 2020 Major League Baseball first-year player draft. He is the newly minted top prospect in the Milwaukee Brewers organization. Baseball's number 69 overall, and you can find him on Twitter at Garrett Mitchell5. Garrett, we cannot thank you enough for all the time, man. This has been so great catching up, and best of luck in Arizona. Don't melt before we get to the fall, but enjoy all of your time at the complex, and we'll be following as we get baseball back in all the forms. We love it.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me.
This past year has shown us that without your health, you have nothing. If you're not well, you can't work, look after yourself, or take care of your family. You can't enjoy the life you've worked so hard to build. That's why you need to prioritize taking care of your long-term health today, before it goes from good to bad to worse. So invest in your long-term health with Forward. Forward is intelligent medicine with a personal touch. Their doctors are dedicated to catching top killers like cancer and heart disease early before it's too late. And catching them early could save you tens of thousands of dollars in the long run. Everyone's health history is different, which is why Forward doctors personalize a health plan with you, based on your genetics, lifestyle, and biometrics to achieve long-term results and ensure nothing gets missed. It's time to invest in a doctor that's invested in you. Go to GoForward.com today to protect your future health. That's GoForward.com. GoForward.com.
Excited to catch up with our good pal Benjamin Hill this week, who is safe in non-tropical storm area. Correct? Right? You weren't really in the path the last couple days.
No, I was did have to go to Pennsylvania for a while. Visiting my mom, but made it back to New York before the storm. And yeah, we had a lot of I remember when I was a kid, I had a Winnie the Pooh record, and you hear turn the page when you hear the chimes.
Oh yeah.
This. And one of my favorites is called Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. And yesterday I was thinking, man, is it a blustery day? Winnie the Pooh would understand. But Yeah, that's about all. I made it back to New York City before the storm, and we got some rain and some wind, but I was not affected at all. And one of those
Good.
times I'm happy to live in an apartment and have
Yeah.
actually nothing to worry about in terms of the upkeep of my property and falling tree branches and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. We got a good amount of stuff to talk about with Ben this week. We are nearing the epic conclusion of the league facts, the did you knows about each of the minor leagues, 14 leagues, and we are through AAA and AA and high A and low A, and now to the short season circuits into rookie ball and the Appalachian League, which is one of the oldest and most storied leagues in all of minor league baseball. You came out with the facts about each team in the Appy League. And there are some really good ones, like some really very good old classic minor league style things, including a 27 strikeout no-hitter, which is one that we can dive into. That happened in Bristol, which of course is now home to the Bristol Pirates. But I think my favorite of the Appy League facts is, and I had kind of forgotten about this, the Burlington Royals play in a stadium, Burlington Athletic Stadium, which actually was not built either for that franchise or in that city. It was built as League Park in Danville, and then was broken down, built in through 1958. It hosted the Danville team. Broken down, shipped via train to Burlington, and then rebuilt in Burlington 60 years ago. And it's just held Appy League ball and held the Burlington Royals in large part ever since, which is a very random and cool and super minor league thing. Like, we're not going to build a new one, and this one isn't being used. Why don't we just break it down and ship it on a train?
Yeah, weird times. They don't make them like that anymore. And, that stadium, Burlington Athletic Park, has gone through a lot of renovations, particularly over the last decade. But the core of it, is still can be traced back to a stadium that was built elsewhere, disassembled and shipped via train. And I'm pretty sure that's the only case, that particular quirk in all of minor league baseball, where you have a ballpark that was literally built somewhere else. But it speaks to how much simpler things were then, that, people thought of ballparks as, a grandstand and some bleachers, and it wasn't all the bells and whistles today. Because can you imagine disassembling one of today's minor league stadiums, shipping it on a train?
You have to ship an entire district of a lot of downtowns in various cities.
Yeah, it would be an impossible undertaking. But that's the charms of the Appy League, and writing that column just kind of helped get me in touch with how much I like that league. My only road trip ever that was entirely one league, and the entirety of one league in a single stretch, was 2016, when 10 teams, 10 days, I did the whole Appy League. And it was, that's a lot of, I was worn out, but it was not that hard to do because, 5 of the teams I just stayed in Johnson City for the whole time, and all 5 teams in that division were basically within an hour of one another. Johnson City and Elizabethton are like 20 minutes away tops. So you really have some really remarkable concentration in that league for sure. And it's a lot of charm and a lot of history. And it's a cliche. And Bristol Pirates actually use this as their slogan, but baseball as it was meant to be. And we can argue what baseball is meant to be, because that's different things to different people. But how they mean it is just stripped of all the modern day bells and whistles. Very intimate, very small, very affordable, more rustic and rural. And it is something really to experience. And I'm really glad I had that experience.
And you're also coming out with a piece on the Pioneer League, which will be up by the time people hear this podcast, I think. But give us a little taste of maybe your most favorite fun fact from the Pioneer League.
These articles have usually been running on Tuesday, but I had to take a little time off. So the exciting conclusion is running tomorrow on Thursday when you hear this podcast, so check it out. And I'm sad to see the series go. But the 14th and final installment is the other Advanced Rookie League. There's the Appalachian and the Pioneer League, and that's what I'm working on right now. Here's something I kind of stumbled upon is, the Grand Junction Rockies, as you guys know, and as I'm sure many people know, that team used to be the Casper Ghosts. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, there's no teams in Wyoming, and I don't think there have been much teams in Wyoming, historically, and certainly since the Ghosts left. So I look it up, and on Baseball Reference, there was the Casper Rockies and then the Ghosts, and they played between 2001 and 2011 before moving to Grand Junction, where they are today. and they didn't have a single winning record between 2001 and 2011. They had one 500 record. And outside of that, at least on Baseball Reference, I can only find one other Wyoming-based minor league team that ever existed, and that was the 1941 Cheyenne Indians. And they only existed in that 1941 season, but they went 59-44. So as far as I can tell, the only Wyoming-based minor league team to ever have a winning record was that 1941 club in Cheyenne. The Casper Ghosts between 2001 and 2011 never did. And there's no other instance of Wyoming-based minor league baseball I can find.
My favorite minor league, I'll say it, my favorite minor league team name, and I was devastated when it would have worked. You could have kept that name going to Grand Junction. I think the alliteration of Grand Junction Ghosts actually would have sounded really cool, but they changed it to Rockies, and I've rarely been as disappointed in losing a team name. There have been some good team names that have come and gone. The Jamestown Jammers were a team that ceased to exist and were a great name and logo, but something about losing the Ghosts, it hurt, man.
Yeah, that was a unique one, and somehow they were able to get around. I believe they were able to get around whatever copyright issues that would have existed with Casper the Ghost.
Right, the friendliest ghost.
It wasn't Casper the Ghost related branding, and in fact, and Tyler, I'm sure you know this very well. The Casper Ghosts were famous in minor league baseball logo circles because they eventually unveiled a glow-in-the-dark logo.
Yeah.
And that had never been done before. And the only other instance I can think of a glow-in-the-dark logo is now the Columbia Fireflies added elements of that. But Casper Ghosts, excellent name, representing Wyoming at a time when no one else did, and now no one else does, period. Glow-in-the-dark logo, never had a winning record, never forget.
Always remember the Ghosts. Speaking of team names that may possibly be on the way out or may be saved and just redesigned, the Class A Beloit Snappers in the Midwest League are next year moving into a brand new ballpark in Beloit. And they submitted, kind of put their toes in the water of possibly rebranding heading toward the 2021 season with the new park and maybe a fresh new identity. They tweeted today that they, in the last 24 hours, had received over 300 potential team name submissions. The Snappers, I think, is a great name. Their logo is a very unique one in minor league baseball. It almost looks like a kids club logo, and I mean that in a very endearing and loving way. It's an adorable little kiddo turtle with a hat flipped backwards, getting ready to take a swing. They have a very endearing identity as it is, but this is kind of interesting to go to the fans and say, hey, we want your input before we just slap out there, oh, by the way, we're rebranding and here are all the team names that you get to choose from.
Yeah, they put that out yesterday and taking suggestions and, keeping the Snappers in mind. I do like the Snappers name. I would agree that the logo needs to be changed. And bigger picture, what's happening in Beloit is really interesting and really cool because that's a small market and their current ballpark, I think is a community field. I'm blanking on the name, is very outmoded and, Beloit's survival as a minor league baseball town, was very much in jeopardy even before, the potential repercussions from the ongoing negotiations between major and minor league baseball. And so for Beloit to now be building a new stadium, during these times of uncertainty is a really cool thing. And it puts them, 100%, back in the mix and on the map, for a continued existence. So that's, I think, a really cool thing to see. And, the force behind Beloit baseball right now are, one of the movers and shakers is Quint Studer, who I believe is a Beloit native. And he's best known as the owner of the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. That's a team in a beautiful ballpark, great front office staff, making a lot of headlines in this baseball-free minor league season, with their Airbnb and the disc golf course designed by Bubba Watson. So he's bringing his energy and expertise to his hometown of Beloit to revive that franchise and keep Beloit's future secured at a time when it otherwise, would be very much in question.
And I've seen you throw out some, calls on Twitter for what are some names that people are suggesting. I know you said you like Snappers. I was a big Turtle fan growing up. You can ask my family, so I'm all for keeping Snappers and updating the logo. But either through some of the responses you got or from your trips to Beloit, what do you think are some possibilities for team names that they could go towards?
Yeah, I don't have some real great ones. I threw out some ones that were very specific and goofy. You know, the Home Dogs, DAWG, which is a reference to the famous Road Dog diner, restaurant in Beloit, right near the team hotel, the Roadway Inn, with a famous karaoke bar, I believe. So, I threw out some goofy stuff like that. The Beloit Florists, which would have been a nod to the flower shop that was owned by former league president George Spelius, actually by his wife, and it was in his wife's family for a long time. And so that flower shop was kind of had its own connection to the Snappers and the Midwest League history. I think they're going to get a lot of suggestions, and I'm sure we'll consider suggestions, given the fact that they are right, it's a Wisconsin-based team, but actually, South Beloit, a separate, but obviously very close by city, South Beloit is in Illinois. So, I suggested, State Liners, which is a horrible name, but I think, things with referencing the state borders, 2 states, something I think could be in the mix. I got some goofy suggestions on Twitter. Someone said the Corn Chips and had a very amateur logo they made. I don't even know what that's a reference to. Excuse me. But I don't know. I think, most people are just saying, I like the Snappers. That's what I've been seeing. And that's pretty common when this kind of comes about, that, people have an attachment to a name and don't want to see it changed. And, I understand that. But I do think, especially with moving into the new ballpark, they really do need to, freshen it up and go into the new ballpark, if not with a new name, then with, seriously revamped logo and just a whole new, fresh energy to match what's going on with the franchise.
I'm going to throw one out real quick, just that's piggybacking off State Liners, the Gateman. Because according to the Wikipedia page, I know Wikipedia isn't a great resource, but it says it's the gateway to Wisconsin. So it makes me think of anybody who follows the Cape League, the Wareham Gatemen are the team that you first get to. It's not even on the Cape, but it's just before you get there. Piggybacking off of that, it's not like a weird, wacky one, and I can't even envision what the logo would look like, but I just wanted to get that out of my system. More or less.
Wait a minute. Just let me you pronounce that town Wareham?
Yeah, Wareham.
So you folks have a town in your region spelled Worcester, and that one is pronounced
threw in an H
Worcester.
in there. No, you threw in an H there. There's no H.
Yeah, right. Sorry. Worcester. That one is
Correct.
Worcester.
Yes.
But the one that I have always been saying is Wareham is Wareham.
Correct. Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
I don't know how else to explain it.
correct
That's the way you do it. Yeah. Sorry to make this discussion about a Wisconsin team into,
it always comes back to Boston.
Yeah, right.
No, Gateman. I actually very much like Gateman. I think it's a really cool name, the Gateman. It would be if it was like, one of the suggestions in Cleveland has been the Guardians, because there's a bridge that has these really cool old Art Deco statues that are called the Guardians. Gateman feels very much in that same vein. I like that idea. That's a cool one. Keep it in mind, Snappers.
Yeah, we're just throwing out ideas here. That's what we do.
These are free. These are free from the mind of Sam Dykstra. I like it. And Benjamin Hill stuff you can all find on the site, milb.com/BensBiz. Ben is on Twitter at BensBiz as well. And good stuff, especially for these last couple of leagues with the facts. You can go back through at the beginning of each of these stories are the links to all of the other league fun fact stories, the interesting did you know fact stories. So you can educate yourself on all of those, and they've been really, really fun to follow along with. And Ben, great stuff as always, man. And we will we'll do it again next week.
Yeah, great talking to you guys, and I'm gonna miss these fun fact series when they're gone. I've enjoyed doing them, and I'm gonna get off not the phone, get off the Zoom with you guys, and with holding back tears, finish this last one on the Pioneer League. And in conclusion, let me say, never forget that Gary Reedus hit 462 for the 1978 Billings Mustangs.
462.
Damn right.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Sam.
We head to the West Coast for our weekly minor league writer spotlight. It feels like it has been ages since we caught up with your friend and mine, Josh Jackson. I don't think it's actually been ages, but it's been too long. Hi, Josh.
How are you, fellas?
We're good, man. How are you doing?
I'm plugging along, doing all right out here.
Good.
This thing that you've got me on to talk about. This was a really fun one.
This is a fun one, and it is the start of a series of stories in this vein. This month at MILB.com, we're profiling minor league baseball fans across the country who go to impressive lengths to show their love of the game in creative ways and stay connected to their favorite teams, even when the action on the field is on hold. And Josh kicked off this series. I've got a story coming next week. Ben has a story the following couple of weeks on some, for lack of a better term, some minor league super fans. Josh's is a super fun one about ice cream helmet collector slash author slash logo enthusiast slash kind of all around MILB sort of dude, Paul Caputo, who has maybe the world's largest ice cream helmet collection, which is something that Josh and I have bonded over, and Sam as well. We're big fans of both ice cream and tiny helmets, or large helmets to eat the ice cream out of. I don't discriminate. I'll eat all the ice cream. But tell us about this story, because Paul's collection is definitely a unique one.
Yeah, Paul, he may well be. I mean, he's at least in the running for the title of world's foremost collector of ice cream helmets or helmet sundaes. Helmet sundae helmets. He has, somewhere around 300. Which there's another guy who probably has around the same number. Eric Lichtenberg is his name. He's really kind of concerned with like manufacturing and design prototypes are up Eric Lichtenberg's alley. For Paul Caputo, he kind of ended up with this collection over a long period of time. It wasn't something where he said, I'm going to start collecting helmets, as much as he sort of realized, he'd amassed somewhat of a collection. And then the more he shared about that, I mean, to some extent, he posted on Facebook after he had collected, after he had sort of happened into all 30 major league teams' helmets, and people that he hadn't talked to in forever would send him comments or messages like, hey, well, I've got this minor league team I go see once or twice a year. Do you want a helmet from there? And it's like, yeah, sure. So now it's become a thing where he has a bunch of helmets that either give him sort of ties to various friends or friends he's made through his minor league journeys and ice cream collections, or that tie him directly to, that are directly from minor league journeys or games that he's gone to. And he's done a lot of journeys around the minors, both with his children and with a group of friends, which now is up to 11. Yeah, he's got a group of about 11 friends who every year, with like once in a while a year off, since 2014, when it was just two of them. But anyway, the group grew over time, have gone to a different region and traveled around and hit up minor league games. And so he's got helmets from all of those journeys, and helmets, and basically any way you could get a helmet, he's got a helmet from that kind of experience. He's also just an incredibly fun guy to talk to. I've talked to a lot of people about a lot of different aspects of minor league baseball over the years, in all kinds of environments. A lot on the phone, which is, how Paul and I connected. A lot, at ballparks, in, manager's office, clubhouses, on the concourse with fans, at bars, whatever, all kinds of people. Paul and I ended up chatting for like, I don't know, it was well over an hour. And it was just a really fun conversation about sort of how great the minor leagues are and how fun this collection of his is.
And one of my favorite quotes from this story, Josh, is apparently like his sister, The way you write it is his sister Katie, perhaps half as a gag, wrote to every minor league team within 100 miles or so of Philly asking for Sunday helmets. And Paul said, when she did that, I don't think the teams realized she was talking about a grown man instead of a 12-year-old baseball fan with his hat on sideways. So this feels like such a kid's story, right? Like I remember growing up and collecting these. I even had a roommate in college who collected them and then used them for the standings of Major League Baseball, and he would move them around every day. But to have it be this big, what came across in that hour-long conversation about like what he's taken away from this process, what he's learned about minor league baseball? There's like some of these you don't even have anymore for logos, like this South Bend Silverhawks are in here, which you mentioned by name, the Oklahoma City Redhawks, that kind of stuff. What were the takeaways from that?
Yeah, I mean, so as that quote illustrates, one of the and what made it so fun to talk to him, and what I hope it makes it a fun story to read, is that he has a tremendous sense of humor about, it's not, when you think of somebody who's a collector of anything, you think of somebody who takes their collection so seriously that, it's like a little weird. And I would say, Paul, he's like, yeah, this is a little weird. It's super fun. Let's have some laughs about it. A quote that I didn't end up using in the story, but when the words came out of his mouth, I was like, oh, that's probably going to end up being the the first quote I use. We were talking about souvenir cups, and I mentioned to him that for some, I don't really understand why, but my wife does not love it when I come home from like a work trip and I have, like, let's say I've been to Rancho and wherever, and I come home with like 3 different ice cream helmets from like 4 different teams. She's not a fan of that, but she does not seem to mind as much if I come home with a souvenir cup. So I mentioned that to Paul, we were talking, souvenir cups came up, and I said, oh, my wife doesn't seem to mind it so much if I come home and put and clutter up the cupboards with those. And he said, well, I don't know if it's because of the helmets that I ended up separated, but they probably didn't help. Which, yeah, I mean, it just points to the sense of humor, I think, that, he has about the helmets, and the sense of really of fun, to be able to sort of laugh at one's own circumstances, and that baseball and minor league baseball can kind of play a role in that in your life, and helping you to not, take things so seriously, and to have a little bit of fun. So yeah, for me, that attitude, that his whole sort of philosophy or approach to the helmets was what made it a fun story to write, made him a really fun guy to talk to, and what I hope will make it a fun story to read. And along those same lines, I asked him about, so this trip that he takes with his friends, they call it Baseball Palooza, and I said to him, I was like, so to what extent now at this point are you planning the trips by going, okay, you know what? I don't have a helmet from the, Fayetteville Woodpeckers. I don't know if he has one or not, by the way. I just pulled that name out of my ice cream helmet. How much does that sort of, I want this helmet, factor into the trips? I mean, the answer, he was like, well, not really. I mean, you can go to the story and read his actual quote, but I'm just kind of trying to describe his attitude here. His attitude was like, it's not about I'm going out and stocking down these helmets. It's about these helmets are mementos from sort of the fun of minor league baseball. Now they end up going to places, of course they want to go places that he's never been, And if he's been somewhere, chances are very, very high that he has a helmet from there. So in that way, the baseball palooza trips end up being kind of geared around getting helmets that he doesn't have. But it's by no means, yeah, this is again about like how seriously you take the collection versus how much fun you're willing to have with it. By no means is he like, I must go get this year must be the year that we go to, X place because I need X helmet. It's more like, hey, I've never been to X place. Hey, look, let's grab a helmet here. I don't have one.
And
very identifiable.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty understandable. I was going to ask, but you brought up the cup, so I don't have to ask, like, what would you take away from every stadium, I guess, Josh? But of Caputo's hats, which one would you want to use to start your own collection, I guess, of all these Sunday cups that you've seen in the pictures he's sent and the ones he's talked about in your discussions with him? How would you start your own collection, I guess?
Well, that's a good question. I do have a little bit of I don't know if you call it a collection. So one of the major points of the story is that there's a difference between a collection and hoarding. And the comedian and humorist and writer and all around entertainer John Hodgman actually addressed Paul Caputo and told him, and you can read about it in the story, but in a public sort of format, that the difference between a collection and a collector and a hoarder is a display case or display shelf. So I'm sort of hoarding a few helmets in my, I probably have 5 or 6 little ice cream sundae helmets. And one that Paul and I connected on was the Sacramento River Cats. And for the particulars on why the Sacramento River Cats helmet is different, one should probably check out Eric Lichtenberg's website, which is easy to find, which has notes on different design prototypes and manufacturing and stuff. But the River Cats one is bigger and deeper by just a little bit. So it's small enough that it's still a mini helmet sundae, but it's big enough that if I'm eating ice cream out of it, I'm like, ooh, I got a little bit extra tonight. So that's one that we're connected over. Another one that Paul mentioned is, and I don't think this bit is in the story, but Paul has an old one from the Inland Empire 66ers before they rebranded to have I guess it's Bernie, the mechanic swinging the wrench. They just had the street sign style 66ers logo. So he has that old ice cream sundae helmet. And, I kind of wish that the 66ers still had that. Maybe in 2021, they'll have Bernie swinging the wrench on an ice cream helmet. But if you go there, at least if you went there last year, maybe the year before, if you went there in recent years and you went to the concession stand and asked for an ice cream sundae helmet, the helpful and hardworking individual behind the counter might tell you, okay, would you like a blue one or a red one? And you'll say, oh, a red one, I guess. And then you'll get an Angels helmet.
Ah.
And if you had said blue, you would have wound up with a Dodgers helmet, which is not, it's not the same as having a 66ers batting, ice cream sundae helmet. So the longest winded answer possible to your question, Sam, is if I could start a collection with any from that I know that Paul has, it would be the old 66ers one.
I like it. This story you can find right now at MILB.com. It is the first in a series of stories. I shockingly have one on minor league hat collectors, which is coming up next week. Ben will have a couple of stories, but we really want to, obviously keep in touch with and keep embracing the biggest minor league fans out there during what has been a brutal year for all of us, and a time in which, hey, we miss you. We miss you all. And Josh Jackson, you can find on Twitter at Josh Jackson MILB, and go have some ice cream right now. Seems like a good way to wrap up the interview. Just go do it. That's
Yeah.
that's you, Josh.
Yes, I don't have any ice cream around, but you know, I've well, yeah. I mean, I'll get some eventually at some point. Don't worry about that. That's a given. Thank you for having me on, fellas.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Final segment. Thanks, as always, to everybody who joined the show this week, especially Garrett Mitchell, the top prospect in the Brewers organization, and to Ben and Josh as well. Sam has this week's nationwide prospect fun fact before we go.
Yeah, so there are a couple of parameters I'll set out for this fun fact, but then it'll make a turn for a fun thing. So I was looking at, there's going to be a shortened season this year. There's the potential to put up some really crazy numbers. We talked about that with Ben in his segment. He just ended it right there talking about the guy at Billings who hit, what did he say, 462?
462, I think he said.
462, which is incredible. Who knows if we're going to get some crazy number like that. It isn't quite happening yet with prospects, but there have been some special starts for sure. Kyle Lewis in Seattle, Luis Robert in Chicago. More to come, obviously. Joe Adell just coming up this week. He has every potential to put up some wacky numbers himself. But I wanted to look at some of the best rookie performances over the last 63 years. So I started in 1947. You might know that as Jackie Robinson's rookie year up until now. And the highest OPS put up by a rookie with at least 200 plate appearances, which is roughly what the most experienced guys will get this year, was Willie McCovey in 1959. He had a 1.085 OPS. Number 2 was Jordan Alvarez, actually last year, at 1.067. Number 3 was Aaron Judge in 2017 at 1.049. Now, I've been doing this a lot more lately. Tyler, do you think anybody can beat Willie McCovey's 1.085? With keeping in mind, as of right now, Kyle Lewis is at 1.006 and Luis Robert is at 997.
1085 is pretty tough. I'm gonna say no. As much as I would like to say yes, somebody's gonna register 1100. I'm gonna go on the downside.
Yeah, I think I am too. Because we're just talking about literally history here, and we're talking about one of the greatest hitters ever in Willie McCovey. There's a reason why they named an entire cove after the guy. A special hitter. And yeah, offense is on the way up right now. We just mentioned Jordan Alvarez is number 2 on that list, and Aaron Judge is number 3. And those were guys who played recently. But you think about the hot start that Kyle Lewis is off to, and the fact that he's not even cracking that McCovey number yet, or Luis Robert, but neither of them are doing that. And there's the potential for them to regress over a full season, especially Kyle Lewis, who struck out 36.5% of the time so far. I don't think it could happen, but the way offense has been going, the way teams are building players who are homer friendly and can hit the ball over the yard, and the opportunity for some of the most talented prospects to get called up earlier than we expected, at least puts it in play. So we'll keep tabs on this as the season goes along. But as of right now, it feels like Willie McCovey's 1085 feels secure, but we would be happy to see that number broken in 2020.
And a loaded episode of the show before the show from MILB.com comes to an end. All the stuff up at the site. A big thanks to everybody for joining us. And for Sam Dykstra, I'm Tyler Mom. We'll talk to you next week.